Hello, my name's Zachary and I'm very glad to be talking to all of you today, my friends and colleagues at the Ibero-American Cochrane Network. And thank you to Pablo for the invitation to send this video on. So I'm going to talk to you today about the Evidence Synthesis Taxonomy Initiative, which is a project that we have received funding for, which aims to harmonize the many different types of evidence synthesis and to also provide guidance about what is the best review approach for a particular question. Today I'll be presenting the slides that I presented at the Global Evidence Summit, and I only have 7 minutes, so I'll get right into it. Here are my disclosures. Just to note that this work is funded by the Australian National Health and Medical Research Council. Okay, so let's lay some of the background for this work. So we know now that there are many different types of systematic reviews and evidence synthesis, and this is often referred to as the evidence synthesis family or different families of evidence synthesis. Whilst historically we only had systematic reviews of randomized controlled trials or on the effects of interventions, we now have many, many different types and approaches to synthesize the evidence. For example, for systematic reviews, which are just one branch in the family, we can see that there are many different types of systematic review approaches that we can do now, including subtypes of these reviews as well. And these methods are expanding at a very fast rate. So what the premise behind our work is that there has been this explosion in evidence synthesis methods and approaches. However, there are still many low quality and redundant evidence synthesis projects. For many people, there is a lot of confusion regarding all of these different approaches, and there is no standard classification scheme or effort to harmonize these approaches that is continuously updated and internationally agreed amongst the evidence synthesis community. And that is what we're trying to do. We hope to build an evidence synthesis taxonomy that is a living repository and compendium, identifying all of the different approaches to evidence synthesis and also linking out to relevant methods and guidance as well. So it's a useful resource for people to actually visit, find out what the best approach or best evidence synthesis type is for their particular question, and then be linked out to methods and reporting guidance. So that is what we are trying to do. This will be a comprehensive resource, which we hope will be of benefit to many, many different people. And really, we hope to ensure good methodological choices and improve the conduct of reviews. Okay, so we are doing this as an international effort. Our headquarters are here in Adelaide within Hesbury, but we have many people who are working on this effort from across the globe, and we're a very open and welcoming group. So if you're interested in joining, please do reach out. Okay. We've also provided some publications related to this work. Perhaps the most relevant publication is this Pandora's Box of Evidence Synthesis and why we actually need a living evidence synthesis taxonomy. And we've also been conducting a scoping review of all of the previous classification systems and typologies in this space. And I'll give you a very quick update on that today. Okay, so the what we are really trying to do, if we can just sum it all up very quickly, we want to make sure that people are doing the right reviews for the right reasons, using the right methods, and we really hope that this evidence synthesis taxonomy will help people achieve this. So let me give you a quick update now on this scoping review that I mentioned. So my colleague, Dr. Danielle Pollock, led this scoping review, which looked at all of the previous typologies, taxonomies, classification systems, etc., in evidence synthesis. Obviously, we wanted to do this before we developed our own classification system or taxonomy. We also wanted to see how many different evidence synthesis approaches have been included in these previous taxonomies and how the authors of these typologies or taxonomies actually grouped different types of evidence synthesis together or distinguished them from one another. So what were the characteristics that made the authors group a bunch of systematic reviews under one label and a bunch of other approaches under a different label? So we found 446 reports or studies or resources that we included in our review, 49 of which we classified formal groupings. We also then looked at the different terms that had been used in all of these different or previous systems, and we could see that there are actually over 1,000 different terms that have been used to describe different approaches to evidence synthesis. The most common term, and this will surprise no one, I think, was systematic reviews, but you can see that there were many, many, many other terms that were also used. Many of these terms were only mentioned once, which is probably contributing to some of the confusion as well, because they aren't very well known terms. So you can see here on the screen some of the most popular terms that have been used to describe evidence synthesis approaches. Okay, I'll skip over this. And so, like I said, we also looked at how these different systems actually grouped or distinguished different types of evidence synthesis. So a lot of the previous systems did it by the foci of interest or the review question, or the discipline or field, the perspective that is taken by the authors from a neutral stance to a more opinionated stance, the coverage in terms of the search coverage, eligibility criteria, and so on, as you can see. And this is really interesting, actually, to see the different ways that authors did categorize all of the different approaches to evidence synthesis. So this was a really important milestone that we've just completed on the way to developing our taxonomy. So basically, what it did show was that there are too many terms. That we think there are too many terms. We need some harmonization in this field. There was limited knowledge user involvement in the development of these previous systems. They weren't empirically developed, let's say, or weren't based on strong methodological approaches, and we know there is this need for harmonization, as we say. Okay, so we've been developing a taxonomy now, which we have done in a co-designed way with a very large group. We've had lots and lots of different workshops. Our first workshop, in-person workshop, was actually at Cochrane last year, but we have had many, many others with the members of the ST Advisory Board, as you can see here, and we also had a lot of online workshops as well. We've also done a survey. So as we develop the taxonomy, we iteratively amongst these workshops, we've also done some surveys. I can see we're running out of time. I'm glad to say that basic structure for taxonomy has now been approved, and it looks like this. What we've done is we've grouped our reviews, different evidence synthesis approaches, into these 5 families across the top here. Big picture reviews, which include things like scoping and mapping reviews. Qualitative evidence synthesis, which includes approaches like meta-aggregation or meta-ethnography and many others. Reviews of reviews, such as umbrella reviews or overviews of reviews. Mixed methods reviews, including things like realist synthesis and other approaches. And quantitative systematic reviews as well, which many of you may be familiar with. We also introduced this concept of modes, including the modes of living and rapid, where in the past people have talked about rapid reviews or living reviews as separate evidence synthesis types, but we actually consider that you could make any evidence synthesis project a living approach or a rapid approach, or using a rapid mode or living mode. So we've clarified that in this taxonomy as well. Okay, and then so what we're now developing is a living wiki to go alongside this, and also harmonizing the different review approaches under these families. And in our living wiki, we're going to have all of this really useful information so that people can go to this wiki and then go out to the relevant methodological conduct guidance, or the reporting standards, or the relevant certainty of evidence approaches, etc., etc. So hopefully it's really, really useful for the end users. Okay. All right, so that's I think all I have time for. We are working through this, and if you would like to be involved, please just send me an email. We can't do this without the involvement of fantastic systematic reviewers and evidence synthesis methodologists around the globe. So please do reach out and enjoy your network meeting. Thank you, everybody.